So a little under the weather here today. I was going to do my Hiram Munster dance, but I would fork it up. I know, just not really, not on top of my game. Thanks for coming out today, folks. What a beautiful venue, man. What a beautiful park. Glad to be here. So, yeah, most of you know that I think we were at Penn State last week and talked about these, these cabal players, all these people trying to disrupt our message. And, it looks like they're hitting us with these bioweapons and things that are going on. I don't know if they're toxins, but it's the second time we've had this happen, so we've been a little bit rough the last week. That's why I'm not dancing like I normally do. Having fun with that. It wouldn't come out very well.
It's okay, we're glad you're here.
Yeah, these high schools can throw at us whatever they want. It's not going to stop. It's like, I guess they're not learning that lesson, but it doesn't really help when I taunt these douchebags all the time, but I'm just going to keep coming on stronger and harder every time they do something stupid. They're scumbags, they're weak. I know we got a couple people in here tonight that are here for a reason. There's infiltrators everywhere. I get them everywhere I go. I don't know what you think you're going to accomplish, but it ain't going to stop what I'm doing. This war is going to continue. Patriot Street Fighters is a smoked out operation. I sort them out in my own circle, I remove them. Anybody who gets anywhere near this operation, their ass gets tossed out. So, you're in the end of people reasons that you're going to make some waves here. Ain't going to happen. It's not going to work. We're doing what we're doing. It's obviously very successful. And you guys are driving an incredible growing army, the Patriot Street Fighter Nation. And it's happening everywhere we go. And we're just getting started, believe me. I just spent the weekend in Anaheim. We had a great event there. Clay Clark's venue there. General Flynn, of course. Patrick was there. Patrick, Byrne, and Lindell. These guys will all come on the show. I talked to them this past weekend. And, I've been to 3 events now with General Flynn. I still haven't had a chance to meet him, right? And somebody asked me twice, well, how can you be backstage with General Flynn? You don't have a picture, you haven't met him. And my response was, hanging out in the green room the whole time at these venues and these events and meeting all the people, the speakers there, that doesn't help me win my war. I can't build that army spending all my time back there hanging out with people taking pictures. My army's built when I'm out there in the crowd all day long in the sun shaking hands and meeting the people.
That's right.
That's what's going to help me win the army. No disrespect to General Flynn. Love General Flynn. I finally did meet him. I was like, you know what? Well, this is the 3rd time, so I should probably, at least before I walk out of here, just go over and say hello to General Flynn. And it's kind of interesting because he's been, he's blocked off by his security detail, and it was the last day we were getting ready to leave because I had to catch a flight. And I thought this was kind of amusing. The guys that usually are running the event, they're kind of expediters, and I can't think of their names, Joe and his brother. But I went over to nearby General Flynn just so I could reach in, shake his hand, and say, General Flynn, it's a pleasure to meet you. And then I was going to bolt. Wasn't going to occupy his time, or anything like that. But so one of the security guards was basically at him in front of the block. And I said, I just wanted to reach in, shake his hand. I'm not going to take up any of his time. And he's like, no, you just, basically want me to back away. You can't do that. He's busy right now. I said, well, I got to catch a flight. I just wanted to acknowledge that, I've been here a couple times, haven't met him. Guy wasn't backing off one bit. It's like, oh, okay. So I turned around like Dennis and Dan. I'm like, you know what? Let's go. And I heard Joe walk over to this guy and say, hey, wait a second. This is a guy that General Flynn's going to want to talk to. He's going to want to be on the show. And I heard that in the back of my mind. And I thought, that's okay. I just kept walking. And then he yelled over at me, and I just ignored it. And I just said, come on, guys, we're out of here. I was really playing it out. Yep, see, I'm out of here. And he, hey, no, Scott, come on back. What a nice soul I was being, but I thought it was kind of funny. But, when you see what's happening, these events that are around the country, you have these Patriot events around the country that are growing, and they're bringing out people, and they're all coming inside this energy field. It's serving an incredible purpose. Now, what's happening that we've seen around the country is people are finally showing up for the fight. We've stood by for decades, and we've let these scumbags walk into positions of power completely unchallenged. And I've watched this in the political arena for a number of years before I've walked away. And I noticed, especially the Republican Party, has disgusted me for probably 15 years or more. And I kind of look at it, now if you're a Republican or you're a politician here, I'm just hang tight a bit and I'll try to mend this together where you can find the balance. But I've watched the Republican Party allow the Democratic Party to use their virtues against them and beat their asses off all the time on every piece of legislation, initiatives, movements, anything, because they don't want to fight. They try to be too dignified, they try to be too suave, too debonair. It's kind of the difference between the House of Representatives and the United States Senate. You got this raucous, up close to the people faction of representatives that are really close to the pulse of America. Then you have this chamber of the United States Senate, which is a cooling body, cooler minds prevail, more dignified in the way they conduct their business. That's all fine and dandy, but when we're on the verge of losing the country and certainly the culture, warfare is warfare. And that means it's dirty, it's bloody, it's ruthless. It brings a Patriot Street Fighter language like, go forth yourself, you scumbags. I don't care what you think. We're going to come after you. We're going to bury you. We're not going to stop until you're dead, in the ground, in a box. I don't care what it takes. We are not going to let you finish the country off. This is the kind of rhetoric that it's going to take to win this war. We can no longer sit back and allow these scumbags to use our virtues against us. That's our disadvantage, and that's always been their advantage. So if I've done anything successfully after blowing that gasket a year ago January, starting the Tipping Point Revolution Radio, and just going full throttle assault, AC-130 gunship strafing runs on these people every day that I can, is that I never backed off. I don't care who comes after me, what they say about me, and they're coming, there's more. I mean, they're using bioweapons now, the discrediting campaign that they're ramping up for me to, do all the things they do to destroy people that come up against them. They're going to do what they're going to do, right? And I said this before, they can't stop me. They can't stop a Patriot Street Fighter movement. Only you can. Only you can. So what they do is they'll come up with all kinds of bullshit to try to finally make you say, hey, we don't like that guy anymore. I said this before, it'll be the choice of we the people. It's all dependent on what you're going to allow them to do to you, to this society, this movement, this culture, me, whatever. They'll come up with they can digitize anything. They'll show me have romantic relations with a mule somewhere. I mean, they can do anything. They can do this stuff, right? It's who they are. So all I have to say to that is when they try that stuff, all you just have to say, we don't care. The only thing that matters is this guy hates your guts. He's going to work to destroy you. He's going to help us work with him to destroy you. Nothing else matters. These people have to go away. They have to go away. So what we've seen happening around the country, for me, it's been an incredible ride. When I started talking about, how many people remember when I first started talking about the Patriot Street Fighter tour back in January last year? Remember that? Right? Did you ever think it would look like this? Tour bus running around the country. I get to ride my bike all over the country. I didn't have there's some ideas I had for it, but I didn't really know what it was going to look like. I started flying to different places, doing events, so I wasn't really sure. But the best thing about this approach is that it gives me an opportunity to be face to face front and center with you. If I was flying into events, being picking up the airport, hotel, shuttles to the venue, backstage, coming out, speaking to the people, getting back in a car, going to the airport. It served really no purpose except to put me on display. What's that going to do? So what this has done is allowed all of us, each one of us here that are fighting this war together. I mean, imagine how lucky I am to start out on a tour. It doesn't work out the way that I wanted it to. Hasta la bye-bye, and I got Sasha Stone and Lee Douglas. All things work together for good for those who believe, right? And that's exactly the way it came together. So as we're out here, that's right, as we're out here fighting this war, this information warfare campaign, we get to meet you. We get to touch you. We get to, have tears with you. We get to hug you, meet your kids, play with the tomahawk, all those kind of things we get to do face to face. So to me, it's truly the greatest privilege, the greatest honor I've had in my life. All the years of frustration. When I started this operation in my mind on how we're going to save the country in 1992, I started to kick into it a little bit in 1990. I started working elected politics, but by 92, when I started digging into the Clinton governorship in Arkansas, and I saw the level of corruption, the connection with H.W. Bush, the leader of the Fourth Reich, the Nazi war criminal, child trafficker, pedophile, traitor to the United States. When I started looking at this stuff back then, I couldn't believe what was happening to the country. I remember there was a state legislator in Arkansas that was probably there for 40 years. And he said, he was warning everybody in the Clinton Chronicles. He said, look, he said, this crime syndicate is forming a circle of power. And what it's almost about to do is complete that circle of power, and then it's going to take it to Washington, D.C. That's exactly what happened. And what you didn't know at the time was that was facilitated by H.W. Bush. Why do you think these guys were like this? Even after, it's the economy stupid and all those attacks by Clinton. This is what elective politics are, folks. At least at the federal level. It's a play. It's a show. Nothing more. Nothing less. It's a play. It's a show to make you believe, happy that these people over here are fighting for you, that these clowns over here are fighting for the other people, and they pitch you against each other, fighting each other. They now have you in this mental state of total distraction for the truth of what they would do to this country for decades. And they get away with it. That's what these guys told me. So when I watched this whole thing unfold all those years, right up to when I walked away in 2006 for elected politics, realized 911 was an inside job, and all this other stuff, didn't have much hope until Trump announced. When he made that announcement, that's when I realized we have a shot. We finally have somebody. I had no idea how magnificent it was going to be, far beyond what I could dream. But then we had these 4 years of complete insanity. The TDS, the lunacy of BLM and Antifa, their latest two weapons against we the people. And from that point of view, that's when I said, that's it. Gloves off. We're going to go after everybody and everything that's part of their operation to destroy the country. So when I started calling these the political class scumbags, I knew I was going to make a lot of enemies. I was in Las Vegas recently, and there's people that have been on my show running for high state level positions, and they couldn't even bother to show up. What do you think that's going to get from me? Right? They want to come on my show so they can get the exposure of millions of Patriot street fighters, but they couldn't bother to show up. And somebody, one or two of them said, well, they had other commitments. I'm like, are you shitting me? You better cancel. Patriot street fighters in town. I can bring the vote wherever you are, they can. So I don't listen to what people say, I watch what they do. I never listen to what people say, I watch what they do. This is the only truth interpreter that I have. I watch. That tells me the language that I can understand. So what I would say to all of you, when you see these elections start, the cycle start, the campaigns, if these people that are asking for your vote aren't going to war on the established political structure with which they want to join, if they're not going to war and talking like Patriot street fighter, don't give them your vote. Don't give them your vote. They will never earn your trust. They'll never earn your respect once you're on the inside. Because those people are the enemy. Those people, Republican, Democrat, in the state houses, those are your enemies. Why do I say that? Because everything that's happened in this country, specifically since H.W. Bush shifted the axis of power of our industrial base over to China, out of this country, destroying the middle class in the process, basically jobs gone, industries wiped out. Since that point in time, these people have engineered the greatest takeover of any country in history, and that is to fall the greatest nation ever. That's what they nearly accomplished. Now, did one man do it himself? No. They were all in on it. Every one of them. Whether they were just acquiescing to the bribery, the threats, all the bullshit, whatever it is that made us say, okay, I'm going to go along with this, to me that makes them a traitor. If they corner these people in situations in Washington, D.C. or these state houses, then they should leave. They should get the hell out. You're either principled or you're not. Too many of these people get in there and they realize the reality that they're now trapped. There's nothing, they can't really affect change, right? They can't affect change. So what do? Well, I'm just gonna stay here and get mine because people make me feel important. I got a staff, follow me around like little puppy dogs, kissing my ass every day, telling me how great I am. I got the government credit card. I can go to the best restaurants in Georgetown every single night. I got lots of friends. I'm important. I got rock star status. Why would I give that up? That's the problem. That's the problem. Self-service. That's what nearly destroyed the country. Self-service. Our founding fathers had everything to lose. They were offered titles of nobility by the British Crown to stand down, to sit down. They already had money. They had prestige. They had power. Think about this. They were the important movers of American society back then. They had everything. Everything. And were offered more. And they said, go for it yourself. Freedom or nothing. Freedom or nothing. Nothing. For many of these founders, I think probably 49 of the 52, what ended up becoming of their fortunes, well, we know. Number died poverty-stricken. But you know what? They actually had the ability to say, before they were passing on, I delivered my victory for humanity. What could possibly be greater than that? So what I would leave you with is today is this. Right now, it's all hands on deck. Yep. How do we dismantle this criminal power structure that exists from the ground up? I've said this for months, for quite some time. Start with your school board. All of you have a stake in this fight because many of you have children. They are revamping society right there at the lowest levels. Their mindset is absolutely no different than Johann Fichte, the philosopher, who said, look, this is how they changed the society of the Prussians, made them a powerful nation. What we need to do is we need to build people from the ground up. Yep. So that when they grow up, the only will that they have is the will that we will upon them. Very successful. Horace Mann went there to study their education system to figure out how they turned it around so quickly in 20 years. Brought that education system back to the United States. Rockefeller poured more funding, John Rockefeller, more funding into this architecture of education than even the federal government. You know, he was a scumbag, obviously. Now I know everything about him. That's what they've done. They've become very successful at it. Very smart move. I got to give them credit where credit's due. Brilliant strategy. Now here's your strategy. Go into the school boards. Go to the meetings. You know I talk about Vail, Arizona all the time. A heroic example of how it's done. You bring hundreds of people to these school board meetings and you start putting pressure on these ice holes that lived beside you, that were neighbors, that grew up, and they were shitheads then. They always were. You're like, how'd they get affected to vote to the school board? This guy is a clown. This woman couldn't balance a checkbook with 14 cents in it. And we're going to give her a shot at the school board and elect her? Are you kidding me? That's what happens. And so now they're in there. Again, Dr. Cordy Williams taught me this. San Diego County, 167 seats run unopposed. 167 seats run unopposed. One county. That happens across the nation. What happens? These clowns, these shitheads walk in here and take power completely unchallenged, and then they bring their lunacy to the table. And the people that have that tyrannical mindset, they're the ones that come up with critical race theory, non-binary, sex and all that. Why do they do that? Because the status quo is not exciting. I'm going to come up with something really radical because I'm going to get a lot of attention. And people are going to start talking about me and making me feel important because I want restroom privileges for little boys or men in the girls' room. It's going to draw attention to me and I'm going to feel like there's somebody important. That's how these clowns think. So then we do nothing and the other clown behind is like, hey, there's some attention here. I want to be part of this too. I want to get me some of that. Now they have consensus. Now they pass this nonsense. Now they implement it, and your kids are now confused having sex changes at 9 years old because they're told that they should be a little boy when they're a girl. All this crazy shit, right? So you bring 300 people to a meeting, and you put pressure on them. What do? What cowards always do. They've never had the energy of opposition coming at them. And I'm not talking about kinetic, I'm not talking about a fight. I'm talking about in-your-face energy. They always back up cowards. When they see masses of people, they're thinking, holy cow, all of these people don't like me. I'm going to have to go grocery shopping, to the post office, the bank, and they're going to see me out there. They're going to be yelling stuff at me. They're going to be oppressing me in public. Guess what? They're not committed. They have no convictions. They back up. They don't even back up. Vail, Arizona, they resigned their positions, and then they ran. They took off like cowards. What did they do? Voted a new school board in, killed the mask mandate, see the scumbags, we're taking over. That works. That's all it takes. Once we get people across the country, Patriot street fighters across the country, county by county, school district by school district, going after these people, we start weakening their foundation, the pillars with which their idiocy stands on. Next to the city councils, small town council, city councils, same people, same bullshit, same approach, same result. That's how you get them out. If you do this from here, this level, and then we start working in the state legislature, 2 years, this whole thing collapses. The foundation is now fractured. And once that momentum starts, it took forever to get here, it's not going to take forever to bring it down. It's going to happen very fast. Because once that fear starts, it spreads like wildfire. That's what happens in Calvary. The whole thing collapses, and we get our country back. Anyway, so just want to tell you how much I appreciate everything that you all are doing. We are all honored that you fight the fight with us. And I can tell you this, none of us sitting here are backing up under any circumstances, no matter what they bring on us. And you iceholes at Penn State that thought you brought that weak-ass weapon, you gotta find something better than that. Whatever piece of shit you are, I can't even imagine what it's like in your mother's basement. When you're wearing slippers with, it's almost like a troll on Facebook. I haven't had any fun with these clowns lately, so I'm gonna have to talk to these dipshits. But yeah, bring your best weapon because obviously under any circumstances it's not gonna work. And if you do have the flaming arrow, I'm not worried about you ice souls either because 20 million pissed off Patriot street fighters